Welcome back, everyone. Very, very glad to have you here for part two. Those of you, I know there's a few people here who I think didn't get to hear the first part of Miriam's story. Please know that the audio file is available. We sent it out via email. If you didn't get it, if you can't locate it, it's completely fine. Just be in touch with Kathy. She can link you up, and you can get to hear all the piece that came before here. But then we get to go on tonight, which is, last time, Miriam, I was just marveling at your energy and realized, wow, you have a lot of energy and you have a lot more, and I don't have that much energy, so I'm going to need to go to sleep so we can come back for part two, which is wonderful. So now we're a little bit fresher, and we can continue on.
Well, I think it's the type of things that you get very tired.
Could be. So I made a note.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Okay.
Is that all right? I made a note and wanted to pick up. One of the last things that you had shared with us was about coming back to Czechoslovakia and a dream that you had in which you saw your grandfather.
Yes.
Could you start that story over again and share with us?
Of course. What happened, I was in the woods with my mother, and as I said before, we were put in a prison and in a deep hole. And both of us survived somehow. We came out from it. I don't know how my mother got out, but I know that she said that if I am the first to go on the top of somebody else and crawl to a hole and run. It was supposed to be a dark night. And but I don't know what's happened to the other people, but I do know my mother survived at the time. She came and found me. It was very dark. It's in the woods, and it's at night, and you go around feeling with your hands as not to run into a tree or something worse. And I ended up in there is a lot of water and high grasses. I don't know what you call it.
Like a marsh?
A marsh. And I got in there, and it was dark, and I didn't know which way to go. I was standing there, and my mother came right at me.
How did she get out?
The same way as I did. I don't know, she tried, but
and then
my
she
mother was very inventive of finding ways how mainly that I survive. Mm-hmm. It was very important to her that I survive. And
she had found her way to the same marsh.
Yeah, and it was very dark. You couldn't see anything. So, and then we found our way to a drier place under a tree, and we were both sitting back to back, so as to see from all sides if somebody's coming or whatever. And I dreamt that I found myself in the middle of a tall ladder walking up. And I looked down, and it was very far, and an old man was holding the ladder, and my father looked very small, far away, farther. He looked like a child, small, and he said, "That's my father, don't worry, just go." The next morning, both my mother and I woke up. We didn't talk to each other about anything. It was the same night as we were experiencing before. And she said, and we both said at the same time, "I think we can't stay here anymore. Let's just walk." Now, they tried before to help us to go across, but we couldn't across the border. And me and my mother walked by ourselves, and we found our way all the way to Munkac. which used to be Czechoslovakia. But this time it was occupied by Hungary. I have to think of which country we were occupied by then. So we went there, and my aunt, one of the cousins who was in the work commando, wrote my aunt that he couldn't find us anymore, so we must have gone there. And so she sent money to the railroad station or to somebody, I don't know, for a ticket to her house. And then, as I say, we came across and got there. And we came home to my hometown after a week.
What was that town?
Stayed.
What town?
Hometown, Dulovo, where we lived.
Mm-hmm.
So the situations were the same, that there wasn't enough food, and that it was a bad war. And my mother said to my aunt, I think we're going to go home, and we went home, and we had to go straight to the gendarmes. That was a police type of thing, the gendarmes. They were supposed to find, we were taken away, how are we back? So it was like a prisoner or something. And because me and my mother came back, and none of my brothers, or my father, they said that me and my mother were prostitutes for the German soldiers. And they wanted the same.
Oy.
So we had to go every Friday to, it's called Belden's, telling them, here we are. I mean, we're still here.
Announcements?
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I do understand. Belden means actually to register.
I can't hear you.
Register.
Like a registration? To go
Yeah,
register?
we
at
had
city-
to register like a prisoner. And my mother was scared for me, so she had me go to the next town and stay with her sister.
Was that Charna?
No, that was in Iglia. That was a walking distance across a lake. And and I stayed there for 2 weeks, and then my mother said she heard or she read in a paper, there still was the Jüdische Blatt on. They still had the Jewish newspapers. And so she said that she saw in the paper that somebody is looking for a girl to take care of her children while she works, and they had a store of some type. I think a shoe store. And so just until noon, her husband does the rest. She says, she wants a young girl to take care of her kids, and then in the afternoon she can go and seek to find a profession that she wants to learn. So by the time I got there, my mother took me got somehow some money. I don't know, she borrowed it or sold something or whatever, and she bought me a ticket on the train to go to Kishwader. It was a Jewish city, very Jewish city. I mean, a lot of Jews lived there, and that was in old Hungary. And while I was at the, while I was getting my ticket, I don't remember if my mother told me or if it was my own idea. I took my mother's name, her last name. Her name was Farkas now because she was married to my father, and her maiden name was Ausch. And Ausch was kind of a famous name in that area. So we were talking, first of all, that they wouldn't be able to find me, and secondary, that I would have a better chance to find some place to live. So I got on the train, and there was a girl who was a dienst, who was working for another Jewish family as a maid. And we started talking, and she said she's going to the same city, so we were sitting together and talking, and I told her a little bit about me. So she says, don't worry, we got there in the evening, you can come and sleep with me. And so she brings a stranger into somebody else's house, and so she kind of explained to her what I was telling her. So she said, this woman, I think I was staying there a day or two, and I went to look for the people who put in that ad. But by then they moved away and moved to Budapest. So after that, I had no place to go, and women were going every Friday to the open market. I think it was a market to buy chickens and vegetables for Shabbos and things like that. So they got together and were talking, and this old lady went there, and she was telling everybody her daughter is getting married. And this woman where I stayed said, you know, there is a girl in my house that came to such and such place because they had an ad in the paper, and they're not they're not here anymore. But it was kind of long distance, you know. That was Hungary from before. We were occupied by Hungary. So I went there, and I was introduced myself as Ausch, Miriam, and this older woman came, and she said, my daughter's getting married in 3 weeks, and you can come and live with us. She had 2 sons at home and another daughter. And they had so little space that the sons were sleeping in the entrance hall with a curtain across. And they had a kitchen usually in the yard, not directly by the house. So, they had a big bedroom where the husband and wife slept in separate beds, you know, on each side of the room. And the daughter slept on, they call it a chaiselon, a couch-like, but it was wider. And so I slept with her. We shared that couch. And I stayed there for a certain length of time. And my mother came to see me once. And then I started getting sick. I got malaria, whooping cough, and anything else that you can think of. And the doctor said, we never had any of these diseases here. And I think I picked it up in the woods. And anyway, they tried to find a place for me where I could go. So they sent me to to another city to somebody whose husband was in Budapest. He went to an insane asylum because they thought if people are in an insane asylum, they're not going to take them away. And nobody wanted to listen to my story. I mean, they said, "Don't get upset. Don't talk about it."
Did they believe you?
Some did a little bit more than others. If not, they wouldn't. I wasn't a maid. I wasn't getting paid or anything. I was just there helping out. And in this case, the girl was a hat maker. She was teaching me how to make hats in turbans. They were turbans then. And so I stayed there a certain length of time, and I couldn't go to the doctor because I wasn't registered there, so the doctor had to come to the house, and he said he never saw anything like that a person should have so many diseases and so many problems. And so they tried to find a place for me someplace else. And they found somebody in Debrecen, which is another city. And this woman's husband was in Budapest trying to they thought that they're going to be safer. And he also was in a insane asylum because he had the money to pay for it. So that they thought they was more afraid that they're going to take the man to the work thing. But I went there. They bought me a ticket. They put me on the train, and this woman was waiting for me, a young woman with 2 young children. And she was like a sister to me. She loved me and took me around to see the hotels and things like that. It was very, very nice. Gave me her fur coat because I didn't have much clothes. And I was staying with her until Passover, almost Passover. Then the SS came in to that city and was they heard me to tell him a little bit of my experience, so they sent me away. They sent me to their parents, to Nyíregyház. In Nyíregyház, I was there for Passover with her parents. They were very old people, and they said, they're going to be able to help you because they have a vineyard, and you'll be able to go and live in the vineyards and work there maybe. So I went there. I just want to explain that Jewish people, wherever they are very giving. I came to a land where I could hardly speak the language, and I was accepted like I was their own. Anyway, a lot of things happen in all of these places that, But there, I came there about 2 days before they put us in a ghetto. And in the ghetto, right in the middle of the city, they just put all the people together and took over the doctors and lawyers and things, places.
Are there offices?
The offices, and we were staying there. And just right in the middle of the city. We were there for about 3-4 days. Well, I was 3-4 days. And I heard about, my mother sent me a card that she was found, somebody sold her out to the Germans for a few dollars and brought her there.
And she was able to send you a note? Oh, they brought her to the ghetto.
My mother was in the Hungary that was occupied,
Right.
and I was in Hungary that existed before. See, I was in the real Hungary,
Right.
and they
She
were
was in occupied Hungary.
they were occupied, yeah. So there, when I heard that my mother was caught, she was hiding out someplace. I fainted. No, I fainted more than once. From anything, I didn't cry or scream. I fainted. So I fainted, and all the people came and tried to get me up and all of that. And then, just a couple of days later, they took us to a tobacco, where they grow tobacco, to a farm. And that was like they were making us ready to be taken away. So, and we were sleeping on the ground and outside. That's in Hungary. The SS came there, and they had us carry dirt from the hill to the bottom, from the bottom to the hills, just so as to give us things to do, work, hard work. And it usually was 2 pails or something you carried in the front of you. And at this time, my name was Ausch. And they started, like about 3 or 4 days later, they started to take us away on wagons. Because my name was Ausch, there weren't too many people with an A. I was first. And
Too bad you weren't already Samuel.
it's helped in one place and didn't help in another.
It's a little worse than Farkash.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was the first to go. And they took us to a railroad station, loaded us up on the outside, on the open end, where it's no roof, and with 2 pails for
Bathroom.
And I was just listening to some people. They had somebody who was engaged, and they wanted them to get married on the train so they wouldn't divide them. See, they didn't know what was going. That was the terrible thing. They didn't know any other place what was going on. Well, anyway, I don't know what they did, if they got married or not there, but we were so many of us that you could hardly move. And they didn't feed us. If we brought something from home, that was one thing. Anyway, then they brought us, it took a few days. It was a slow train to Auschwitz. In Auschwitz, they brought us, and they told us to get off the train. And in the front were SS and dogs. And they said, everybody go back in the back of the building, in the back, and get undressed. Everything. Take off your jewelry, take off your shoes, get completely naked. And we did. I mean, they had to do, there were people there to see to it that we did. And then there were people who were before in the camps, and they gathered up the clothes and the jewelry and whatever. I started writing a book about my experience already, And so we stayed there. Everybody was undressed, and there was a back door to get into the big building. We got in the building. They had from the ceilings hanging something, a lot of it. And it was clippers. And they started shearing everybody's hair off, women. They put the women separate from the men. And, well, of course, I was between the women. So everybody got their hair shorn off, and then they turned on the showers. And we got showers, and then they had us to bend back. Excuse me, everybody, what I'm going to say. They bent back, and they sprayed us with petrol. I think it was very sharp. It was hurting like hell. They shaved us all over. And so our clothes and everything was outside. And they told us, go this way, forward. And we all went, and there was one of they called us Häftlingen, one of the Häftlingers, one of the people of our things, sitting by the things and giving everybody one piece of clothes. It was whatever, a piece of clothes.
Was it all this? Is it like a prisoner's uniform, or it was whatever they had?
No, it was a prisoner's. It was a green, but just the dress. No underwear, no shoes, no nothing. Later on, they gave us wooden things with a piece of leather across. And anyway, and then they put us by 4 and counted 1,000 people at once, and took us to these things. I guess you call it barracks, but there were 2 rows of maybe as far as this thing is here, of beds, boards, 3 layers, bottom, in the middle, and on the top. There was a block eldest, they were calling him eldest, a woman also who was a captured person. And she had to arrange where we go to, who's going up on the top and who's going to be on the bottom. The heavier people were on the bottom, and then the other ones, and then the skinny ones, or the more petite people, had to go on the top. But we didn't all fit in from that transporter's gas. So what they did is they put 13 and 12 and whatever, but mostly on the top. And I was on the top, and there were boards that were apart. They weren't completely together. And our flesh that we didn't have too much of went through it, and we couldn't turn over. If one person turned over, we all had to turn over. We were
That tight.
And we stayed there, and we were told some of the laws that in the morning we're going to get, they said, coffee, and we're going to get soup for dinner. The block eldest told us. I think she was told what to say. And then tomorrow we're going to have to go out on appel. Appel was when we went out over 1,000 people. from one group, and we were counted, they put us in 4, and we were counted that way. And so what was happening is people were, after a couple of days, they were fainting because the appel was for a long time. It lasted for hours. Like, it was still dark and outside, and we have to go out and stand in appel, but we didn't get anything to eat or to drink. There was no water that was drinkable. There was an outside pipes, but they told us not to drink it, the water is poison. And it was rusty anyway, so people were fainting, and the block elder would go up and down and says, hit her real hard, because they had to get up, if not she's going to be shot. And so we did that. We kind of watched out if somebody's falling down to do that. And they also showed us the wires that were built like that, bent, around the whole camp. And they told us if we touch it, we're going to be electrocuted, which was true. A lot of people just went and wanted to be electrocuted. They didn't want to stay there. I was there for about 6 or 7 weeks. The block eldest was a Czech girl, a Jewish Czech girl. And I was already a little bit experienced. I went through something like that, or close to it. And so I told her about it. And so I became, and then she had swollen feet, and I massaged it. I tried to
be friendly.
Because she was Jewish and she was in the same problems that we had, but she was in charge of us. So she got a little bit more food, so she gave me all the time, sometime, I should say, something. And she also told me if they call for volunteer for work, jump up as fast as you can and be the first in line, because it's much better to do something
than not to do something.
That
they need you, or they're going to use you.
Anyway, so I was in the S Commando. I was carrying food in a big garbage can, like that high. I was on one side and another girl was on the other side. And we were walking with the with the SS, okay? We were just going to the next camp. We couldn't escape, but they went with us anyway. And we walked by the crematorium. And the first few days we were wondering what it is. The smoke, all of the smoke and the smell. And finally, we asked each other, there was, not just me and her, there were a lot of people carrying camp for a Czech camp. I think they killed them all there. So excuse me. Well, what they did is, I said to the other girl, I wonder what that smoke is, And the SS men who walked close by our side said that you Dumkov, you stupid head. She says that your parents are burning there. Well, you can imagine how that hurt us. I mean, just being told. And then we saw that we were all young, and they fit the strongest and somebody who can work. But they did not give us numbers because we were still depend how many people they have exposable, you know. So
I don't understand. So,
they didn't give us a number
wait, why not?
because they were planning to kill us all.
So they're not going to give you a number if you're not going to make
yeah.
it.
So that was work, you know. So they didn't give us numbers. In the morning, they brought us so-called coffee. But it wasn't coffee, it didn't smell like coffee. It was just some type of a colored, light brown, almost like the thing here to drink. And they brought one bowl, and everybody had a drink. And we watched each other so we didn't have two drinks, because we had to share it with everybody. So then, when they asked for the workers, and as I say, I was carrying food for the Czech people because they didn't have a kitchen there. There was thousands of people there and no kitchen. So we carried in these big garbage cans the soup, which I think they used sugar beets, but there wasn't any in it that you could see. It just water, and it was quite heavy. And we was carrying to the camp. We didn't see the people at all. We just left it by the kitchen, but whatever they told us to leave it, and they walked back with us. And then we got soap, bars of soap about that big, and it was gray. And a SS woman delivered it. We gave it to the block älteste, and she said, give to everybody a bar, and then she made a speech. This is from the fat of your families. First I hear that that's what they're doing, and I knew my mother was there. So it was pretty hard to hear. As a matter of fact, Ernie Hollander even saved some of those things, I think. He even had a little bread that I think he saved, but they were given to him. Anyway, so that was in Auschwitz. I was in Auschwitz for about 6-7 weeks. I don't exactly know. We didn't know. And then came SS men, 2 dogs, and SS woman. And we all had to come out of this bunk where we were in and get undressed, naked. You can understand Jewish women getting undressed. And they had a stick, and if they wanted somebody, they hit them and said, you go to this side. The other one, go back in, and so on. So they took us to work. They took us, again, this time we were riding inside of, now this is the first time we had a shower or a bed. They took us to another camp and gave us a bed and gave us clothes that they probably took off from other prisoners, but they were washed. And I ended up getting a light blue dress with big flowers, but nothing underneath. Anyway, and we were given these shoes that have a piece of leather there and in the back, and it was a piece of board, and that were our shoes. And we came to this other camp, which was called Covering, and they started building there. They're going to build a new camp, and we were the workers. So what we had to do is 2 in the front and 2 in the back, loading up one of those wood carriers, like they do here too, I think, for some things, and put a lot of dirt on it and stuff like that. Other ones were digging it out in squares, like big, like building for a small building, and putting it on the top, and the other ones were carrying to the next one, and so on. And they were building bunkers, for us. Also, and that just had one layer of beds. And it wasn't beds, it was just boards. But what they did is they were building these things. They dug out places for the place, for the bunker, and they made like a roof, and that was covered with some more dirt. I think first it had wood and some more dirt and grass, so that it couldn't be seen from...
Camouflage, right?
Camouflage, yeah. So they built the camp, the women did build this. And I talked a little bit German, I guess, so I understood what they were saying. And so I was interpreting, telling to, tells you this, they tell you. They were staying there to see that you do the work.
Mm-hmm.
And a German officer walked by, and he said, do you speak German? I said a little. And then he said, come with me. And right away I thought he wants me for something else. And I walked with him, and he tried to make conversation with me. And I was scared. I thought they're gonna prostitute me, so I was scared, and there was sitting another girl by her bunk, and he says, are you scared? And I said, yes. And then he said, you want to call this other girl too? I said, sure. At least I won't be alone. And that was then the rest of my life, a friend. I called, she came and she was mad at me because there was going on things that they're raping the girls. I don't know if they did or didn't, but anyway, that was what we were scared of. So she looked at me, what did you call me for,
Bring her into this.
Yeah. And we walked with the officer, and we didn't even notice, but he was not an SS man. He was a military man. So he took us to a building where the officers are living, in the kitchen, and all of that. And so he said, Okay, du arbeitest for the Oberleutnant and she works for the other guy, you know. So we both ended up being putzfraus.
What is that?
A putzfrau is a cleaning woman. We had to wash their floors, make their beds, do their, whatever they told us, clean their boots. Every morning before they got up, we were never supposed to be in the room by ourselves, just when they were there. And then they picked one man for a barber, and he was standing like an outside by the door and cutting them for soldiers the hair and stuff. And I think he was from Poland, and he said to me, "Oh, thanks God, it's a Jewish girl. I was very free, and now that I promised myself I'll marry a Jewish girl when I see her." That was really funny. But just
So this Polish guy was Jewish?
yeah.
Oh.
He was the barber. So it was really funny because I already was in Poland, so I already spoke Polish too a little. So then we worked there until noon, and then we worked in the SS kitchen. In this case, it was hard, but it was not as hard because we were more inside, and other people were building those buildings, you know, the bunks. Yeah. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Anyway, so we were there for, we had these jobs, they were satisfied with us, and then they even kind of were a little bit less strict. But we still had the same laws and everything. But we had to go and eat from the same thing as the other, even if we did work in the kitchen. But I was serving there for all military, the whole army who was there. I had to serve the food through a window. They were standing in line, and I was serving them and another person. And first I worked by peeling the vegetables and washing the kettles and washing the floors and doing all of that. And it was to the point from this thing that my hand got, you had to do a big ladle to put in the plate for the soldiers. Mm-hmm. And so my hand got infected.
Like from getting burned?
No, from the hard work.
Ah.
These were hundreds and hundreds of people, mind you. And there were Jewish loafers, they called them. They were runners. And they had a few little boys that were runners. And when they came to take the food or something for their officer or whatever, they had to take it. When I was at the things, I sometimes gave them a piece of bread so that nobody would see. I couldn't take it for me, but I did it for him. And anyway, so I had to go to the doctor. In the camp, there were doctors, but the doctors didn't have any instruments at all. So this doctor took a regular knife, sharpened it up, and burned it over a match, and cut off part of my side of the hand. And
to get the infection out?
well, yeah, I guess it was. It was it was an infection, and got it out, and I had the things just put something on to protect it. So anyway, we were doing that. Me but we became friends, Nushi. Well, this guy who said that he was going to marry me, I told him to marry my friend, and he did. They came to our house a few times. They came to my daughter's wedding. I mean, you know, they ended up in where was it? Anyway, so that part of the thing wasn't as bad, but I also had other infections there. I had some swelling in my mouth that, we didn't, by the way, we didn't get the food that we had to go to eat, to stand in line, something else. Anyway, so that part of it wasn't as bad. And then the officers also wanted for me to raise their rabbits. And so I had to, from the kitchen, get the stuff what they were supposed to eat and go kind of far out of the way.
Were the rabbits in the camp?
In the camp, yeah, to feed the rabbits. And the soldiers were, some of them were SS, I'm sure. The soldiers were, our hair was, as I said, we didn't have any hair. So my girlfriend, my friend, she had a petticoat. They gave her, when they gave out the clothes, they gave her a petticoat. She cut it in three, and she made 3 scarves, one for me, one for her, and one for her cousin. So we had turbans, so that we didn't look so bad. So that's why we got the jobs, I think. And so we, one day in my mouth something swelled up, and I couldn't close my mouth even. And my friend told the officer for whom I was working that I have a swelling in my things. I was afraid to tell him. And so he sent a doctor. The doctor was about over 80 years old, and he was a Romanian hospital doctor, chief of staff or something. And the only thing he had is a little scissors and matches. And he could just do that when it was after my work, you know. So he told me to open my mouth, and he put in a piece of stick, some piece of wood, and took the little scissors and burned it over his matches. He didn't even have a candle or anything, just over his matches, and wiped it up, and cut out the things that I had in my mouth. Some infection, I don't know. It was from, well, whatever. And so I remember it was almost dark, and he was doing it. And I said, you know, I was surprised that he's so old and he's alive. He says they kept me alive just to come to women's thing. So anyway, he was from Romania, from a big city, a doctor. And he did that. And they gave me 1 day off the office. So I stayed in a hospital. And this doctor brought a German doctor or somebody to see what he did. I was there, the only one, you know. And so then started, they heard about they're losing the war, and they tried to be a little bit nicer. They made us a New Year's party in the camp.
What kind of New Year's party is this?
A New Year's party. And what they did is, well, they did, there wasn't, oh yeah, they gave us cheese and bread, which was great because we didn't, yeah. And the SS woman came and she said, we all have to put on lipstick. And we certainly didn't have lipstick. She gave us a lipstick and she had us all put on lipstick. And we went, it was in camp, they had this New Year's party. There were 2 or 3 SS, and the rest were us. Boys, they took the men from there and the women from here and put them together for New Year's in one of the bunks. So it wasn't everybody, it was just some of us. And I didn't have shoes at all because transport came in from Poland to work because there was too much work to build all of those bunks. So I took off my wooden shoes and I gave him because he was barefoot. And so I was barefoot and didn't have any shoes. And some Italian took off his shoes and gave it to me at this party. So that was a little bit of at the end. And then the Americans were coming and the Russians, and they were getting pushed out, and they took us for a march. With no anything to do, just get up in 4 by 4, and we were about 1,000 in a group. And they were coming from all over in the same way as we were going. And the women were separate and the men were separate. Okay, so we marched for, well, I don't know how many days. It was closer to a week. And American planes were flying over. And they threw
Bombs?
No, not bombs. Messages that they're on their way, you know.
Good guess.
Yeah, well, anyway.
Like propaganda messages?
Yes. Yeah, they saw us. They were thousands of people going. So it wasn't just one group. It was all the groups were going the same way, but they were like 1,001 or 2,000. I don't know. A lot of people. You look in the front or in the back. There was people. But anyway, so and I wanted to get one of those papers. And the block elder, who was my enemy, a German girl, she had a, know what a handshake is? It's a
Whip, a cane?
it's not a cane. It's they used to use it around. They hit with it. It's
A whip.
huh?
A whip?
A whip, kind of. And she cut, hit me over, excuse me, hit me over the breast and cut it. And then we went all the way to Dachau. And in Dachau, they took us in like underground for the crematorium. But they were already so full they couldn't take us. So we walked some more. We got out of there, and it was like underground thing. And the Germans, on the way from there, started to disappear. And there, by the way, I didn't say that in the beginning, but there were so many military with us as there was of us. On both sides, they were coming with us. See, because the area, I think, was being taken over or something. But we didn't know anything about it because we just kind of imagined it and, you know, between talking. And so, so we were just walking. They didn't know what to do with us. Some even ran away and took a Jewish woman with them. They said, I'll protect you. So we slept that night like where there were trees or something. So we were walking like that for many days, and we got to one place where they said it was a military installation, and they said, you all go in there and don't come out for 2 hours. If you come out, we'll shoot you. So we all went in, and we stayed there for approximately 2 hours. We didn't have watches, and kind of really tight because it's a lot of people. And then we came out, and we saw American 3 jeeps coming. And there was 2 people on one, 3 people on the other, and the third one just had one. And so they came and said, how come you were so late? And they said, because it took us 2 days to make a bridge over a river, you know, one of those bridges that they just put on the water. So that's when we got freed. Okay. And surprisingly enough, we had people who spoke English. And they said that they, you know, and what's happened? They gave chocolate to the German kids. They gave us their things of pork in little, like tuna cans.
Spam, the meat in the can?
Yeah, well, it was in like a tuna can,
Yeah.
a little. And you unbound it and pull the thing, and then you can cook it, I think. The military had that for emergencies, I think. So they gave it those things for us to eat. Well, we didn't eat their pork in the camps because they didn't give it to us. Mm-hmm. We weren't about to start now, so. Anyway, but for the
I can get you some chocolate.
not, they gave that to the German
Right.
kids.
I'll get you some.
Thank you, thank you. I have chocolate. Now I can have as much as I want to. But anyway, that was, and then we were freed, and there was this young man that I told you who was a barber. And
The Polish one who married your friend?
yeah, and he was in another transport, you know, between the men. And there they again found each other, and they got married. But I stayed for their wedding. We looked around for a rabbi or for somebody who can give him, and they got married. And then came Czech trucks, military trucks, Czech ones, from Czechoslovakia. And they said, anybody who is Czech can come on the truck and we're going home. And of course, we didn't think for a minute. We went. There was, not everybody was Czech. No, I'm fine. So we traveled on the military Czech trucks for about 2 days. And we came to Pilsen. Pilsen is on the border between Germany and Czechoslovakia. And they also have there the beer things, Pilsener beer. Anyway, we came there and they told us, now we're on American soil. We all went down from the trucks and we kissed the earth and all of that. Then we went to, they told us that it was night when we got there. We got into a beautiful hotel, and they gave us big mugs of beer, black beer. And they gave us beds to sleep in. And in the morning, nurses came and gave us breakfast in bed. Now that was in Czechoslovakia. And it was in Pilsen. But then I had to find my way to Prague, because we were supposed to go to Prague. And all the trains had Russian military. They tore off the seats from the regular, the seats, because they were leather and sent it home. And they were sitting on the floor and all of that, except there was one chair by the door, a round chair, And so it was scary when the train stopped. They broke the windows and jumped out and were dancing, and because they were the winners in this place. It was the Russians and the Americans and the English, and I didn't see any English, just Russians and Americans. And so I went to Prague. Finally, there was other Jewish kids with me, and they were 2 boys, and I asked them, would they call me mother? Because we had to ride on this train with soldiers. And I put on a scarf, so I made myself look old. And the guy who was sitting by the door to let people in got up and he gave me his seat. And these boys called me mother. And we got close to Prague, not quite in Prague, and it started the daylight coming on. And they saw that I'm a young girl. So I had to jump off the train. And they had to jump off with me, the two boys did too. And then we walked and we got to Prague. And I stayed there for about 2-3 weeks. And then I went back to Černa, where my aunt used to live. So I know my family isn't alive, but I thought maybe somebody's alive there. Bernard was a nephew of my aunt. So they were 3 boys, no, 2 of them were at home because they were in the Russian army, and they got freed earlier. They didn't really get freed, but the Russian army freed that area. Mm-hmm. And they, so Bernard told me that he was lying for 2 days in a barn with cows onto the hay. Mm-hmm. And then the Russians came in. See, because it doesn't go that fast, I guess. But he ran away from the things that they were taking him to Germany still. Like they got freed in January or so. And we got freed much later. So I came there, and there was his older brother, married. Some girl was coming from Budapest, and they stopped. They had a big railroad station there where the train stopped for a long time, or changed or whatever. And so he married her because they thought there aren't any Jewish women alive. And then I came, and they wouldn't let, and I came with 2 young men, and they both wanted to marry me. And I said, no, I already have I have somebody in America. What am I going to say? We didn't hear yet from Israel, you know. Anyway, we were walking, and we were supposed to go to, what is it? Where they were giving the Jews some money to start getting,
The Jewish agency?
It was a Jewish agency, but it was in
No, JDC.
Huh?
Joint distribution? Or
No, it wasn't, there wasn't a joint. No. There was, Nancy, you know.
was it a city you're talking about?
I'm talking about where I was going when I was stopped at your father's house. They were at the border with them, Romania.
The office?
Romania.
Oh.
They were in Romania, part of Romania was taken away, and part of Romania was left. So in Romania, there was first the Jewish agency, and there was things that from there you can go straight to Israel. So I was going to go there with these 2 guys, and they wanted to marry me. I said, no, I already have somebody in America. I was promised to him. So then my brother-in-law had them the Taliesin twill, you know, it was in the morning. And he said, no to me, come on. We took a walk in the backyard, and they took the 2 boys and they put them across the border. They hired somebody to take them across the border and say that I'm not going anyplace because
you're going to have to marry one of the brothers.
Right. Right. One of the Samuel brothers.
Yeah. Well, my brother-in-law was married already, and all the men lived in their house because they were singular, and they were already two of them home, Bernard and his older brother, who was married, and so everybody who came home from someplace, from the war, ended up there. And was also close to the railroad. So, and my brother-in-law said, okay, he just knew, and we walked, and he has on the talus and twill, and then somebody came, gave him the signal that it's all right to come back. We go back to the house, and those two guys left.
So your escorts are gone, and now you have to choose a Samuel brother.
Exactly. And that's exactly what's happened.
Congratulations.
Anyway, and they right away
For the smartest.
They right away started saying that, where am I going to go? You're a girl by yourself, and you know.
You weren't by yourself until 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. So anyway, I actually slept my brother-in-law and his wife in one bed. She was pregnant already, so, and I in the other bed. And then the rest of the house was all occupied by young men, a house full. So anyway, what can I say? I was going to run away. I didn't want to get married. I just got freed.
They're not exactly opposite, but
Anyway, so I just kind of left and went home to my town. And I was there for one night, and I saw somebody who went to school with me take off from our house the windows. And I said, you know, what are you doing? That's my house. And he says, I was in the Russian army, and if I want your house or anything else, I can get it. Now, at this time, it's occupied by Russian, not by Hungarian. And another woman came to me and she says, you better, you know, my son, he was a goy, of course, you know, not Jewish. Mm-hmm. He said, you know, you should marry my son. He was in the army and he was an officer and he's a nice boy, you know him, and you were friends with my daughter all the time, and Maas een geschäft. So I thought, my God, there, you know. So I said to her, no, I really couldn't marry him. I already have somebody. So then I went back to Czerny. I had no place to go. Mm-hmm. And I went back to Czerny, and Bernard kind of was jealous if I was dancing with somebody else, because there was a lot of, as I say, a lot of boys who came back from, and then they were trying to redden me shidduch, the old-fashioned way. Mm-hmm. And I said no, 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 no. And then I had a relative, supposedly, in the next town where you can walk on Shabbos to there. And he had a winery, and he said, let's go, don't you want to see your mother's relative there? We will go there Shabbos. We went there Shabbos, Bernard, he and the Schatten. And they wanted to make me drunk. So they were drunk, I wasn't, but my cousin said, my relative said to them, give her time, you know. She has no place to go anyway. Give her time, and see that she goes to a kurort, someplace where I'm going to be cured from all of the things that I went through. So I'm fit to
Get married.
get married. And on the way home, they were bringing back bottles of wine. And by the time we got home, it was night. It was getting dark. And I came close to the house, and there was music playing. And they used to make noise by breaking a plate in the ceiling, and I heard the things falling down, the things, and I wouldn't go in the house. And there was an orchestra, and they invited people from the next town. And
For your wedding that you hadn't agreed to?
My engagement.
Okay.
Yankel, oh no, you don't remember,
No.
yeah, you don't know.
I knew Cherna.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yankel wrote my exhibit. No, not the exhibit,
That's Naim.
The Naim, yeah. He was there too. Anyway, so I wouldn't go into the house. I have nothing to do with it. They even broke the plate when I wasn't there. And then again, I thought, I have to get away from here. I have to get away from here. And I did go again home, and I was making a list why I should or should not marry him. The best way to do it. That's what's happened. And then we were married in about how long?
So you looked at your list and you said, okay?
Well, no, I made out.
Talk about the
He followed me. He followed me around when I was going home, and his brother told him, "You better take the next train." And because his brother was in love with me too, from before, so I had an aunt who was their aunt too. They lived next door to each other, so I knew them, and then we got married in a very short time. I think 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and he. What was happening is Yankel was at my wedding. He's a cousin. Oh, he's also a cousin. They had a lot of sons, and they all lived in the same street, one next to the other. So anyway, we were getting married, and my brother-in-law came and looked at me. In Europe, they still were sitting on a a throne, like, you know, and all women and girls were sitting with her, and they were eating cake and whatever. But my wedding was kind of like that, so my brother-in-law came in, he said, "Oh my God, you look so beautiful." And then
This is the one who was jealous.
Pardon me, yeah.
The other brother.
Yeah. And then
Oh, the married brother. Oy.
yeah, he was a married brother. Then came home, before we were married, came home the younger brother, and he had all of his teeth knocked out in the camps.
Yeah.
And he came home and went straight to they had in the backyard, they had a mill. So they had water running. He came home in the morning and he wanted, and I went, I don't know whatever. He saw me and he says, "Oh, Miriam, I want to marry you." I said, "Fine, I'm already getting married to your brother." So anyway, and I had a wedding with Russian soldiers being in every picture, so I don't have any pictures of my wedding. And I had, well, what can I say? The Russian soldiers or somebody else, we served, in Europe, we served soup, fish and soup and, you know, the whole things. And I guess this was right after the war, they didn't have everything, so they had soup and chicken and stuff like that. And if the tables were set and we were going to eat, and there was no silver. The Russians got away with it. And we didn't take out the pictures because they had the soldiers standing like that with their weapons and everything. And every picture. And then I think we lived happily after, really.
Talk about the DP camp.
Huh?
Talk about the DP camp. When you went to the DP camp.
Oh.
And you were going to go to Israel.
Oh yeah. We went back to Germany because the Russians were living there. They lived fairly close to the border, to the Romanian border. So we had to go, after we were married, I didn't want to stay there. I didn't want to stay with that type of government or anything. And besides, I already thought that I don't want to live between people like that. So we went to, let me see how to put this. We told his older brother that we're going to Romania, and from Romania, I hope we're going to go to Israel. So we went to Romania, and we stayed there for Shabbos. See, we didn't travel on Shabbos or anything, so we stayed there for Shabbos. First of all, I was already pregnant, and I had to go on my stomach, pull myself across the border. It was in the fall, the things was getting brown, the wheats and stuff like that. And we came to Romania, and they had relatives there, and so I took along a lot of my stuff, so we left it there, and we didn't have money, and so we hopped trains, military trains. Militaries were on it, and where there was an open things, we jumped on it, and as I say, I was already pregnant, and then we wanted to go to Czechoslovakia, and we got there, and we didn't have money to buy cards to go get on the train, so you couldn't get in. And we were a group of us already, so we were going with a group. And I got up on a very high wall, and I jumped inside to the railroad station. And after that, they all did it. They saw if a pregnant woman can do
Nothing can do it.
Yeah. So we got on the train and we went, we were going to go to Germany back. Okay, so we were going.
Why would you go back to Germany?
Because from there, from Germany, I think they say people went to other countries. You know, they were. It's kind of hard to explain the whole war the way it was going, but everybody who was who didn't go back to Poland or something went back. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we got back without money, and we came to Munich. We came to Munich, yeah. We walked all the way through the woods and after we got off the train. The train got just to the border. And so we finally, in Germany, we could get on the trains if we were a Häftling. So we got, from there we got to Frankfurt. And we heard there is a kibbutz Yekut, and so but they don't accept married people because it's their training for Israel. Mm-hmm. So we got in there as individuals. And Bernard had a good profession. And he said he can teach everybody his profession. And anyway, so for a long time, he lived on the fourth floor, and I was downstairs. And then one lady that I was, anyway, she was with her daughter, an older lady, and she said to me, "You're too much," they called me the Magyarka, the Ungarish, and they called him the Czech. So they said, you have too much to do with this guy. And I said to her, "I'm married with him." And she said, "What?" So she went and she told everybody I used to wash the stairs and cook and all of that. Took me off of all the duties. But now they wanted me to light the candles. And you should have seen how everybody, the whole thing walked after me to see me light candles. And they brought him down while he was in bed. They didn't tell him anything, to my room and moved the girls out of my room. And that's where I had that girl. Yeah, and there was, and everybody took care of her, and they got her all burned from the sun. I was in the hospital for 6 weeks because they wanted to kill me then too, in the hospital. They almost killed her because what's happened is, I guess I was in labor for over 24 hours in the hospital. And they told me to walk outside and all of that. And then finally I couldn't walk anymore, and I was just, they put me in the verdict room, and then they said that the baby is dead. And so I screamed. They called not the Red Cross, it was what did they call them that? The United Nations.
The Red Cross.
Yeah. They called them to say we have a Häftling, which I was, a Häftling, and she cannot give birth, and we're going to take the baby in pieces. And that woke me up, and I started screaming. I said, no, the baby is not dead. They just want to kill her, just like they did everybody else. And so then they had to operate. And from what I understand, 6 people have to hold me down by operation. And they said that they put her outside for a dead kid. They took her out, put her there, and the nuns were going in the morning to the church. They had an extra hospital for infectious people. And so they were going, and they saw a baby there and outside on a table or whatever. And she was kind of blue, and they took her to their hospital, and they gave her black tea. They said they gave her a whole things of black tea, and she came to. And when Bernard couldn't be with me because he wasn't supposed, we had, in the kibbutz we had the things, curfew. We couldn't leave before a certain hour, so I walked to the hospital, which was quite a way out. And so they took her and they, I don't know, washed her or gave her a bath or whatever, and they gave her the black tea, and she came to, and she weighed, I think, over 7 pounds. And when I was waking up from the ether, and Bernard came because it was already mid-morning, and he says, how is my wife? How is my baby? And they say, your wife is okay and your baby is dead. And here comes a nun with a beautiful little girl with a red ribbon in her hair. And she says, no, she's not dead. The nun said, no, she's not dead. We got her in time. And so then I got an infection, and I ended up staying in that hospital for 6 weeks. And Bernard took her home. After a week, I think they kept him there. And everybody, we lived in a kibbutz, as I said. Everybody wanted to take care of her, and they said, sun is good for her. She was born in June. May. Well, listen, and they baked her, and she got all burdened. And he was buying for her, he was going to all Frankfurt, all over, buying mother's milk for her so that she was allergic to strawberries. So the people ate strawberries, and then she broke out. And when I came home, she was the most beautiful thing that I ever saw. And I was in the hospital for 6 weeks. And when I came home, I still had pipes in my stomach.
Wow.
So that's the end of my story, I think.
What about the part about Ben Gurion?
Ben Gurion came when we were in kibbutz. Ben Gurion came because Bernard was a professional. He was teaching the students to work with metal and with steel and things like that. And they came and they saw Bernard and they're satisfied, fine. And he said, I have a wife. And so they met me, and I already had a big stomach. And they said, "No, we can't take you because you'll never see each other again." You know, that was in the beginning of the war in Israel.
I think that's enough.
Pardon me?
I think she's,
She was pregnant, she couldn't go to Israel because she was pregnant, they went illegally, so that was before.
Got it.
before it was Israel, it was.
Yeah.
Right, it wasn't Israel.
It wasn't Israel that. No, but he wanted,
When I was born, they wouldn't let them go because they had a baby.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, when they returned the
My
things.
father's youngest brother did go.
So yeah. And we stayed in the kibbutz for a long time there, almost
Very good.
2 years. And,
2 years, yeah.
and then we decided to come to America because my mother had 3 brothers here. And so,
Oakland of all places.
and pretty soon,
Who would go to Oakland?
anyway, it's too much to go into all the details of what that person lives for.
I'll tell you what, we can invite anybody who wants to give you a call, to come over, and they can sit and they can find out some more about what happened next.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you.
you're
Thank you
welcome.
so much. Okay.